Hey everybody, what you gonna say? It's Missouri Tigers Live, episode 11. I've been doing this for 3 months. That's crazy to me. Oh, I gotta get the Iowa thing out of here. Oops. How did that even pop up? This isn't an Iowa show. We beat them. We beat them. I hit the wrong thing. Welcome to Missouri Tigers Live. I am Zach Remelius, your host. I don't look like I normally do. I shaved off this, and I don't know. I don't really like it. But we're here to talk about Mizzou football as we've kind of hit the doldrums of the off season, unfortunately. Not a ton to talk about. Not a lot to break. I'm just kidding. Of course, there's plenty to talk about. We can continue to talk about the 2025 schedule. We don't know. We don't know how all these teams are going to look at. We still have the spring portal class. I know the spring portal is not what the winter portal is. It's just not. It's a lot of guys aren't going to get jobs, so they transfer out or whatever. I take a look at that in the mirror. It doesn't look very even. Anyway, but Mizzou, I think, is basically their roster set. I think they're going to go get a D tackle in the spring portal. We'll see if they do one other wide receiver, an offensive lineman. I wouldn't be shocked if they do either. But it's time, man. It's we're starting to get into the doldrums of the off season. And it's time to talk about things that, we could talk about the history of Mizzou football. We could talk about a ton of things. But right now, I want to talk about Mizzou scheduling. Because Mizzou is not an SEC power. They just aren't. They're trying to be one. Maybe my hair. I'm starting to look like freaking Josh Hartnett on like a early 2000s movie, the way my hair's parting. That's a movie reference for those of you who like my movie clips on Twitter. But their scheduling and their non-conference scheduling is just so abysmal under Jim Stark. Here are road games Mizzou is scheduled to play over the next few years. They went to UMass last year, so next year in 2026 they have at Kansas and at Illinois. I don't think the Illinois games get played. At San Diego State. But Illinois, Kansas, those are rivals, area rivals, especially Kansas, that you need to play. So I'm not making fun of them for going on the road in that instance. At San Diego State, what are you doing? Quite seriously, what are you doing? At Northern Illinois, again, what are you doing? At North Texas. Guys, I'm not kidding. The Missouri Tigers in 2030, the Missouri Tigers, who have won 21 games, 23 and 24 seasons, are scheduled to go to Northern Illinois in 2029, North Texas in 2030, and 2030, that seems like a long way away. Guys, 6 years ago, Drew Lock was a senior. Now COVID made things feel a lot longer than it did, but it's not that far away. At Florida Atlantic. Another trip to San Diego State, and then BYU. Like, that one's fine. Mizzou's not a power program, and they were supposed to play at Memphis. Jim Sturk, when he was the AD there before DRF and now Laird, did an abysmal job scheduling. And now Mizzou's going to have to find a way to buy out all these games or get them in St. Louis or something. Like the non-conference, this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. The non-conference scheduling for Missouri athletics the last few years has just been a joke. Basketball loves playing these like 350 ranked teams in college basketball. And then Stark, because football is set further out basketball, but he just, I don't know if he panicked or what it was. He thought maybe Kansas would pick back up before it did. I don't understand it. But why Missouri? Like Vanderbilt played at Georgia State last year, and that was embarrassing. Like even though you're not a SEC power, Mizzou's not Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee or Florida, and even Florida went to USF. I think I would imagine that's a recruiting thing. But like USF's not a bad program, and Bama went to USF. I'm guessing those are recruiting trips, if I had to guess. But what recruiting are you getting out of going to DeKalb, Illinois, or Denton, Texas? Like, you're not getting anything out of it. Why are you doing it? Knock it off. Quite simply, knock it off. Now, the good news for Mizzou and fans who want to watch their Tigers play like good teams, or not travel to these goofy locations. With how college football is going, I don't think any of these schedules will actually happen. I think Mizzou will play Kansas. I think they'll play Illinois at some point. Maybe at St. Louis. Like, that'd be really cool. I also think it then avoids Mizzou having to play 2 games on the road in your non-con. But the scheduling for the Missouri Tigers is just goofy. I don't understand. And it always has been. Even in like 2014, like they went to Toledo. Now, okay, Gary Pinkel coached at Toledo. Fine. Fine. He coached there, but they went to USC. They went to UCF. They went to Nevada when I was a kid. I think they went to Ball State when I was they just always play in these weird games. And I don't quite understand why they feel the need to. It's just confusing. I don't particularly enjoy it. It is what it is, though. But now, we said we'd talk about last week, and we're going to talk about this week. I'm going to power rank the 9 games on Missouri's schedule. I'm not including Louisiana. I'm not including Central Arkansas, and I'm not including UMass. The other 9 games are power rank on how important they are if Mizzou is going to have a successful season. Not toughest. We did that last week. How important these games are for Mizzou to win. It's okay if you lose to you have to win this game. And we'll start with number 1. That's Alabama. Guys, I always joked around when I was a kid. Not a kid. I'm 28, so this was like a decade ago. So, yeah, I was a kid. I was in high school. Will Mizzou beat Kentucky in basketball, because Mizzou was abysmal in basketball, or Alabama in football first? Now they beat them in basketball. But beat them a few times. But the joke I'm making here is Mizzou's not going to beat Alabama in football. They just aren't. Now this year, they get a break. They get Bama after a bye week. And Bama the week before goes to Georgia as a revenge spot against Vanderbilt. So so they play Alabama on October 11th. Not a great day in Mizzou football history. In 2014, they played on October 11th, and I believe that was the day they got murdered by Georgia 34-0 at home. I was at that game. They go to Georgia. They got Vanderbilt in a revenge spot at home. Then they head to Mizzou, and then they head to Tennessee, South Carolina. So Mizzou's right in the middle of that stretch of at Georgia, revenge spot. Then they go to Mizzou, little Mizzou. Tennessee at South Carolina. That's tough. That's a tough 5-game stretch for Alabama. And then they have a bye, and then they could play LSU and OU. No, Eastern Illinois is their pre-Thanksgiving week joke game. I didn't know. Mizzou, it's a tough spot for Alabama. But simply, I just do not think Mizzou will ever beat Alabama in football. I don't think I will ever predict them to beat Alabama in football. It does not matter what year, who the coaches are, and I think Eli's a good coach, but I don't think he's as good as Kellen DeBoer. So at number 9, I have Bama. There's a lot of questions about Bama. Who's their coach going to be? Who's their quarterback going to be? All sorts of pressing issues for that program. we'll find out, And I guess these aren't like you have to win to have to win. I don't know. Like once you get past that game, like these next 8 games are pretty brutal to rank. I had a hard time. So 8 is at Vanderbilt. You have to beat Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia comes back. Clark Lee's a good coach. They had a nice year last year. They lose a lot. They lost the bowl game. Or no, they did. They won their bowl game against Georgia Tech. I'm sorry. But it's a game you still need to win. If you're going to have a successful season, if Mizzou, I wouldn't be shocked if Mizzou loses to Vanderbilt. They almost lost to them last year. Mizzou won 10 games. Vandy won 7. But if Mizzou wants to have what they would characterize as a successful season, that's 8 wins, that's 7 or 8 wins. And if they want to achieve something more and go for a third straight 10-win season, they have to beat Vanderbilt. Even on the road. No one's ever walked into Vanderbilt Stadium and been like, oh, man, no one's winning here tonight. It's not. There are very few times in sports history where I can think of like anybody would have gotten it that night, but none of them have been at Vanderbilt. Like think of like when the Vikings played at the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Like, and Chris Long's talked about it. He's like anybody would have gotten in Philly that night. Or Cavs Warriors Game 6. Anyone would have got. Oh, if you want a college football one, Oklahoma when they hosted Texas Tech when Texas Tech was number 2 in the country. Like anybody was getting it that night for the Sooners. That was. That crowd was not going to let them lose. But yeah, that's never happened at Vanderbilt. And it's not going to happen. You need to win the game. It's an important game. Like these 8 games, hard to rank because like the Bama game, it's like, okay, you're probably going to get waxed. So hard to rank them. But I didn't put a number. But at Vandy is number 8. Again, I think it's also a game where like if you lose it, maybe not the end of the world. What's up, Jackson? Thanks for stopping by. We're just ranking the games in terms of importance next year for the Missouri Tigers. Hey, man, appreciate it. I don't like it too much, to be honest. I'm thinking about growing back. We'll see how it goes over the next week. I've also lost 75 pounds, so my hair, my face isn't as fat, so that might be part of the issue. That's since Halloween, man. I've been working. Anyway, but at Vandy, I just think, I think it's a game Mizzou can lose, still have a successful season, but I can't put it as important because like this next game I'm saying is like a game you have to win. This is not a must win. This is a can't lose, and that's Mississippi State. You cannot lose to Mississippi State. Oh, we'll talk a lot about Mizzou, Kansas today. Next week, the following week, and how pissed I'm going to be when that game is at 11 a.m. because I've already taken the day off work. It's 7 months from now. I've already taken the day off work. I already told my boss I'm not working this. I work in a bank, so it's not open. We're only open a few hours on Saturday. But yeah, I'm not missing that game. I'm going to that game. I got a credit card now. I'm kidding. But number 7 is Mississippi State. Again, Mississippi State falls into the category if you have against like UMass and Central Arkansas and Louisiana. Like, it's not a must win. If you want to have a successful season, it's not a must win. It's you cannot lose this game. Jeff Lebby, we'll see. I never liked him as a hire for the Bulldogs. I just don't see a world where they're good. They really struggled last year. That now Mizzou under Eli can't beat anybody in the SEC on the road, and they kind of went in there and kicked their butt. They just kind of dominated. The game was Luther Burden had a great game. Like, Mizzou never beats anybody on the road under Eli, and they went in there and kicked their butt. That's just not a good team, and I don't know, man. Like, Shapen's supposed to come back and play quarterback. I don't see it. They brought in Gromano. I was trying to think of who they brought. I knew they brought in one of the Florida State quarterbacks. I couldn't remember who transferred, who was Glenn or Gromano. They brought in some receivers. Like, they'll be better, and Lebby runs a good offense, but you cannot lose this game if you're a Missouri Tiger. If you want to have a successful season. Again, not a must win. There's a difference. It's a you can't lose. I probably should have flipped this one in Vanderbilt, if I'm being perfectly honest. But that game's important because if you lose it, you might not make a bowl game. Again, now the rest of these games are super important, super duper duper important. You know, none of them are you can't lose, but you have to do some damage here. And number 6 is Texas A&M at home. Texas A&M embarrassed you in their stadium. They talked crap, they backed it up, and embarrassed you. They ended your playoff hopes in the 6th week of the season because after that game, everyone kind of went, Mizzou's not good, are they? Tough. They embarrassed you, and there's no excuse. There's no, Brady Cook, that was hurt, like, it was against Bama. There was no this, and this. It was you walked into their stadium at 11 a.m. Like, I've seen Kyle Field crazy. That was not a crazy atmosphere. It was a good atmosphere. It's always going to be a good atmosphere at Texas A&M. But you walked in there and got your butt kicked. It's a revenge spot. It's a game I think Mizzou can win. Like, Marcel Reed's going to be the quarterback this year. He was not the quarterback because Mizzou decided to make Connor Wegman look like, Lamar Jackson or whatever. Or Joe, no, he didn't really run. Lamar, like Joe Burrow, and was just throwing the ball up and down the field on him. But we'll see what happens. They come to Mizzou. It's later in the year. It's off a bye week. I'm fairly certain Texas A&M comes off a bye week as well. So they play at LSU and then a bye week. But they also have a look-ahead spot. Now, some of this is going to matter how good or bad these teams are, but Texas A&M could also be in a look-ahead spot because they got South Carolina coming to town the following week, and that's a huge revenge spot for them, because South Carolina licked them in Columbia like they licked Mizzou in Mizzou's Columbia. But you can lose this game and not have a bad season. Like, I think Texas A&M is probably, a top 15 team, maybe closer to top 20, maybe top 10. It's just going to depend if Marcel Reed can develop into anything, really. They're going to have talent all over the place. So we're going to go to number 5, and that's Arkansas. This is a yearly win for Mizzou. In the 10 years they've played since Mizzou joined the SEC. Again, that's 10 years. Mizzou is 8-2 against Arkansas. And the 2 losses were the 2015 team, which we don't need to get into, disastrous, and really, really struggled with a freshman QB named Drew Lock, and the 2021 team who made a bowl the week before, and you could not convince me showed up to that game. And that was a really good Arkansas team. That was a 9-win Arkansas team. And in 2015, same thing. That was a really good Arkansas team, and a Mizzou team that team didn't even make a bowl. The 2021 team probably shouldn't have made a bowl. Like, that team was bad. That team was really bad. The first Eli team, whatever, but the second one, man, that team was bad. The 22 team was close. They were frustrating, but it was close. And that team was awful. But Mizzou beats Arkansas. That's just what Missouri does. They beat the Arkansas Razorbacks. Fayetteville, Columbia, it does not matter. No, they're only 3-2 in Fayetteville, I think. Yeah, they lost in 15, beat them in 17, beat them in 19, lost in 20. Yeah, 3-2. So, like, they have a winning record in Fayetteville. But it's a big one because Arkansas is probably going to be in the, let's take a look at Arkansas' schedule. I mean, I'm just doing an eyeball win-loss. Beat Alabama A&M, beat Arkansas, lose to Ole Miss, Memphis. I'll give them a win tentatively. At Notre Dame, that's a loss. That's 3-2. Tennessee loss, A&M loss. So let's see. We're still at 3 wins. Auburn at home, I'll give them a win. Mississippi State at home, I'll give them a win. At LSU, at Texas. So Arkansas's run up to the Mizzou game, and a game they're probably going to need to make a bowl, is at LSU, at Texas. Good luck. They're going to get whipped in both those games. So they're going to need that one to get a bowl. It's going to be a big game for Arkansas. It could be Pittman's last game. If Pittman's not already let go, which could happen. I mean, it very well could happen. But man, like, you got to beat Arkansas. Like, if you're recruiting their state really well, in both sports. If you're trying to keep yourself above, kind of where you are, if you're trying to, like the financial column of the SEC and like the on the field column, if you're trying to keep your on the field column above where your financial column is, play above your weight as per se, you need to beat Arkansas. And it's another year. Bobby Petrino, Taylon Green, will he get better? I don't know. Maybe. He kind of was exactly who we all thought he was last year, which is supremely talented. Huge arm, runs like Cam, but also not fundamentally great. So, but that is with the halfway point. We're going to talk to you. Thank you all for tuning in to Missouri Live. You can catch us on all your favorite audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. Are there other ones? I'm really not sure. Does anybody use Pandora anymore? I know we're not going to be on Pandora, but does anybody use Pandora anymore? I remember using to love Pandora. You can catch us there. Tune in. If you miss a show, we have a lot of people that work really hard here. You can find, we have a Mizzou channel, for God's sakes. I used to do the Bama channel, had a lot of fun, but now we have a Mizzou channel. If you have a favorite team, find it. I'm sure we have a channel for it, or if we don't, talk to Mark, and I'm sure Mark would love to try and figure something out for your program. I know he's only doing Mizzou because I bugged him for so long about it, because this is my team. It was fun doing Bama, but I'm here now. And Jackson, who popped into the chat earlier, does the Bama channel, and he does a tremendous job. He's a really smart guy. But also, before I keep talking, I'm going to give myself a breather. Take a look at this.
Ohio State, Michigan, the greatest rivalry in sports deserves the greatest debate in sports. Monday, February 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the main channel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything debate with me, taking your calls all night if it takes all night. I'm pulling no punches, so beware. Bring your best intel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything debate. It will be epic. February 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there.
If you're watching Mizzou channel, chances are you're a pretty big college football fan. I would highly, highly encourage you to tune into that. And to the voice of college football, Mark Rogers on the main channel. That's going to be a supreme amount of fun. Because now, like, with the war between those teams, like, man, you got Michigan's won 4 in a row, which is crazy still to me. But Ohio State did just win the Natty. So in dominating fashion, I might add. I know the game against Notre Dame got a little hairy, but like they were clearly the better team in every game they played in that playoff run and for most of the year. So tune in to the main channel. Again, Mark works really hard. He's going to have a lot. He's a big buck nut. There's a lot of big Michigan fans that work for this channel and these channels and help a lot. That's going to be a fun night. So make sure to tune in February 17th for Michigan versus Ohio State. Everything is loose. Like, it's just going to be a great night of debate and talking, and I'll be there listening because I hate them both, but it'll be nice. That's not true. I don't hate Michigan. My cousin played soccer at Michigan, so I don't hate Michigan football. But I'm not too fond of them. I was rooting for Washington, if that says anything. So back to Missouri. The fourth most important game on the Mizzou schedule this year. That's my computer. At Auburn. I'm seeing a lot of again, it's too early for this crap. We'll get into it at some point. Like, let me get to summer. Let me miss college football before. Like, I like the XFL. I live in St. Louis. I like the USFL or UFL, whatever it's called now. I have a lot of fun with it. It's like one of the few teams that I root for that I'm not like a diehard of, or like I can just be a fan. I'm not thinking about like analytics. I'm not thinking about all this crap that goes through my brain. And it's one of those teams that I can just kind of sit back, have a beer, and watch. I like it. It's a good placeholder. And when the UFL season ends, we get into like May. That's when I kind of start twitching, start getting really excited about college football. Plus now basketball's over, and I love basketball. Hockey playoffs and NBA playoffs are really getting going. Like, once those playoffs start to wind down, like we get to the conference finals and we don't have 3 games a night for those sports, I start to miss college football. That's when we should be doing Like really start missing it. That's when we should start doing preseason top 25s. Not in January, guys. Save your content. But I keep seeing Auburn like in the top 15, in the top 20 after going 5-7. And I don't get it. Like their roster is okay. Hugh Freeze will get recruits now legally. Good for him. Never mind. And Cam Coleman's a great receiver, and Lambert Smith was a great receiver for them last year. But I don't understand where this hype is coming from, because like they got Jackson Arnold. And again, I've said this before, and I think I've said it the week after the OU game Mizzou played. The season for OU is not all on Jackson Arnold, man. Like that offensive staff didn't know what they were doing. Oh, they blew it big time. As one of my favorite podcasts, what somebody said, they're like, Auburn put a quarterback in the hospital and then lost to that same quarterback. I mean, they did. They blew it big time, and they blew a bunch of games. But Auburn, you go to Auburn, it's a tough place to play. Again, what's the run up for the Tigers like leading into that game? Because it's early season. Mizzou plays Bama the week before. Oh joy! The run up but on the flip side, Auburn plays Georgia, so it's not like you get an advantage there, or Auburn has an advantage there. Mizzou played Bama, but they played Georgia, and so. But you go to Jordan-Hare. It's going to be tough, but if you can win that game, again, pulling back the Missouri schedule, and we'll talk about a few of these games coming up because the top two games are pretty early in the year. You win that game, you lose to Bama, maybe you beat Vanderbilt, and you're now 7-1, 6-2 before you hit a stretch of 4 winnable games at the end of the year. Like, you can start thinking you're probably in the top 25. Like, it's a big game for the Missouri Tigers this year because I put Bama last because I don't think Bama's beatable for Mizzou and what their current talent level is. I make no qualms. Mizzou's not going to win a national title next year. An objectively good season for them. Hey man, come on. That's we treating me like we're not Van. That's rude to say. We're treating us like Mississippi State. Auburn's not that good. Look, they got Jackson Arnold, guys. Like Jackson Arnold, it is not his fault that Oklahoma was awful last year. Not all his fault. But he's not good. He's never shown to be a good college quarterback, except for one game against Arizona, and it was a bowl game. I don't care about bowl games. I had to work during Mizzou's bowl game. I didn't watch it, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't go back and watch it. No burden. Weiss played a half. They won. They beat Auburn, and that's awesome. But what am I getting out of bowl games now? ESPN has done a tremendous job of killing bowl season, and kudos to them. I don't know if that's what they wanted, but they killed it. It's no longer a thing. It used to be super fun. Now everyone's in the portal or doesn't play because they're going to the draft. Even like the fun ones where it's like, oh man, Arkansas State's playing Northern Illinois. That's a fun game. No, they killed it. I mean, we all do. I mean, it's fun to make fun of Auburn. I saw a thing today. Someone on Twitter was like, Auburn basketball, 20 wins. Auburn football, 5 wins. They're the only program with both. It's like, guys, you won 5 games. You're Auburn. Have some respect for yourselves. Like, you have a history. Yeah, brutal. They've killed. And the thing is, I don't blame Cam Ward. I don't blame any of these people. We spent the first 2-3 years of the playoff. Like, Mizzou was awful in 15 and 16. They were bad. They were just awful. And I'm watching Mizzou play like Kentucky on 11 a.m. on a Saturday because I'm a nutcase who craves punishment. Oh, Pitt, you got to make that. And we're talking about the playoff. It's Mizzou, Kentucky. These people don't care. I'm not watching this game to care about the playoff. All right, the Tigers are like 2-6. Or I'm watching like a fun, like Big 12 game where it's like, West Virginia is probably not a good example. They were pretty good. I think that was the Skylar Howard year. But I'm watching, whoever. We're talking about the playoff. Like, these are teams that are not going to make the playoff. And that's all we did for a few years there. And it's like, oh, you've killed. 2014, you couldn't watch a bowl game without hearing the When Legends of freaking Centuries by Fall Out Boy. one of these shows, I'm going to go on a rant about ESPN. It's just going to be an hour of me blasting ESPN and their college football coverage because, and I won't even touch college basketball coverage because their college basketball coverage sucks too. And they were the peak of the sport for so long, and now they just kind of suck. Whatever. I'm too upset now. Now Jackson's got me upset. Okay, number 3, and these 3 were very hard to rank, but I think I've come and liked my order. Oh, come on, man! I was having a good day. You're gonna make Kirk Herbstreit parade his dog out again. I was having a good day. Actually, not really. Today sucked. Anyway, number 3, Oklahoma. I didn't put an at in front of Oklahoma. Let me edit that real quick. But it's Oklahoma, your former Big 8 rival. You beat them last year. OU is going to want to get you. They don't want to admit it's a rivalry, and I don't blame them because OU for so long has been like among the pinnacle of the sport. They just have been like OU. When you look at the top 5 brands of college football, it's Bama, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, USC or Texas, and then OU. Like, and OU's not number 5. They're closer to 1 than 5. Like, they're an all-time brand. I understand why you don't want to be like, oh, we're rivals with Missouri. Like, I get it. I'm not stupid. But we're rivals now. We hate you, and you starting to hate us because we're becoming a pain in the ass. We're stealing your recruits, stealing your kids from your team. We're becoming a pain in the ass for you. Our coach loves taking shots at you, and your coach is too big of a dork to take. And I know people love calling Eli a dork, and I don't deny that. He is kind of a dork. I love him. I love him for it. Venables, also kind of a dork. And I think OU is going to be pretty good next year. Again, this year's different. This year they actually did stink. Like, they just stopped. Now, the win over Bama was great, and kudos for that. But, man, like, they stunk. And now they need a bounce-back year. Venables needs a big year. They've got Michigan. They get Auburn, but that's at home, so they should be fine there. But they got Texas. They go to South Carolina, who whipped them last year. They got Ole Miss at home. Who knows what Ole Miss is going to look like, but, like, you still got to play them. You go to Tennessee. You go to Bama, who's looking for a revenge spot. You got Mizzou, who's not going to, I don't think, going to be that bad. And you go to Ole Miss, or you go to and you play LSU. Like, they need that game. Like, if I don't know what the expectations are in Soonerland, and I will learn it as we get closer to the offseason, and as we get into like the summer, and I start just talking about, like, I just spent a week talking about these games. Yeah, honestly, like, I hate to agree with Arkansas fans, but Arkansas fans are just kind of like, can we have LSU back? And can OU and Mizzou play on rivalry weekend? Like, please. And I don't want to agree with them because it goes with this whole thing that Arkansas fans have that Mizzou, Arkansas is not a rivalry, which it's not because Mizzou beats their butt every year. So it's kind of, no, it's not a rivalry because we win like every year, you know, kind of like how, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think, but like Tennessee Bama has been a rivalry for 100 years. Like Texas Tech. It does. I don't deny that, but the Arkansas Razorback fan thing is, well, we don't care about Mizzou. And that's why we lose the game. And Mizzou fans are, you don't care about one of your 8 SEC games, and then you lose to us every year? That's embarrassing. And it is. And that's an embarrassing fan base and an embarrassing media while I'm at it too. They're more cheerleaders than media, most of them. I have a lot. I like the Mizzou media. I actually have come really around on like Power Mizzou, and even though they switched to 247. And I've always liked Rock M Nation. And there's a lot of Mizzou media people I like. And I'm thankful for that because I see some of these other, like Kansas State's media. That's just, North Korea is jealous of I do too, but that's never going to happen. It's just not. Mizzou OU would be a lot of fun. Like both teams understand, like you are our biggest rival, but there also isn't a contract that Mizzou and Kansas have to play every year. Kansas State media North Korea is jealous of the media of Kansas State. But OU, like they should be better. They have John Mateer now. I'm interested to see how John Mateer looks when he's not by far the best athlete on the field. Their O-line should be better. Like their O-line coach, I believe it's pronounced Bedenbaugh. Like he's so good. They should not have an issue. They should not have issue being better. The issue OU is going to run into again is that schedule. I keep talking about the run up for these teams. Before Mizzou, they go to Tennessee, they have a bye week, and then they have Bama. That's tough. Meanwhile, Mizzou's got 2 home games against Mississippi. Plays up Texas A&M, that'll be hard, and then Mississippi State. You know, these are 18 to 23-year-old, 24-year-old kids. Like who you play and the sequence you play them matters because you can't get up for every game. You just can't do it. And especially with them having LSU the next week. Like it's a huge game for Mizzou. If you can win that one, again, you could be staring at a 9-win, 10-win season and maybe the playoff. But I don't want to get over my skis here. I still am pretty firmly in the camp of 8-4. We'll see how the spring portal goes. 7-5, 8-4 would be a successful season. But we'll see how the spring portal goes. We'll see how these other teams look. Like things change. Number 2, Kansas. You play for the first time in 14 years. They're coming to Faurot. It's week 2. I swear to God, if it's an 11 a.m. kick on SEC Network, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't know the week 2 schedule. This will be Kansas's 3rd game. They have Fresno State and Wagner. Sure. Teams can play Wagner. They're the Skyhawks, aren't they? That's fine. Whatever. You know, Mizzou plays UMass and Central Arkansas. So there's no real run up for they still haven't announced the dates of the Big 12 schedule. That's weird. So there's no real run up for the Kansas Jayhawks as they come to Mizzou. That game should be at 2:30 or at night. 2:30 is fine. I'm okay with 2:30. I'm okay with afternoon kicks. When I was younger, they used to bother me because when I would go to games, it was like, well, I can't really do anything in the morning and I can't do anything at night. It's like one or the other. But now I've come to really enjoy 2:30 kicks. Doing this, I prefer them to night kicks, to be honest. And that's just selfishly. Kansas returns Jalen Daniels. Not a whole heck of a lot else. Lance Leipold will find a way to make that. But the reason it's number 2 is because it's Kansas. If this was just insert Big 12 team here, this is way down on the list. But it is Kansas. And I'm wearing blue. I should not be doing that as I talk about Kansas. I'm very sorry, everyone. I will stab myself in the gut later. If you're an SEC team and you're hoping to be a middle of the pack to upper pack SEC program, you have to win this game. That'd be nice. I'd enjoy that. You have to win this game. It is a Big 12 team. And again, we'll see how things happen this year. You know, things could change. Maybe Kansas will be really, really good this year. But it is a Big 12 team coming off not making a bowl game in the Big 12, which is not a good conference. And they didn't play the toughest schedule in the Big 12. They did beat Iowa State, which was admittedly funny. They beat BYU too, which is also admittedly funny. But if you want to be taken seriously, you can't be. If you want to be taken seriously as an SEC, oh yeah, I'm not. That game's at OU, so we won't. That won't be at 11 a.m. on Fox. Thank God. Thank God. Thank the Lord. Is Texas? I think Texas is week. Ohio State's week 1. That'll be at 11 a.m. Thank God. As if Ohio State fans didn't hate them enough. I agree. And the reason I agree is Lance Leipold's a good coach. He knows what he's doing. I don't hate Lance Leipold. I just hate Kansas. Lance Leipold's never said anything. Please, NBC. Please. Ohio State deserves a night game for that one because they're not going to get any day games when it's 25 degrees out. And then they're going to complain again. I agree. They deserve a bounce back. They'll have a bounce back season. How good will they be? I'm not sure. It's the Big 12, man. Like every team in the Big 12 is basically the same team. It's just how do you do in one-score games? That'll kind of determine how if you're a good Big 12 team or a bad Big 12 team. Last year, Kansas was a bad Big 12 team, evidenced by the fact that they lost 7 games and they lost to UNLV and they just weren't good. They just weren't a good team, and they've got talent. Devin Neal is going to be in the NFL. Thank God we don't have to deal with him. He's a great running back. But it's Kansas, man. Anytime you play Kansas, it is going to be a top 3 game on the schedule. Basketball, it's always going to be number 1. Football, it's going to be probably 2 or 3. Just because of the SEC and kind of, who you're going to be playing throughout the year. And the stature of Kansas as a program. But it's a game you need to win. If you want to be taken seriously as an SEC dog, you can't lose to a mid-tier Big 12 team at home. It just can't happen. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the circumstances are. You will not be taken seriously if you can't beat Kansas at home in week 2. We'll see what happens, though. It should be a really fun atmosphere. Even if it's a good game, and I can't imagine it wouldn't be, but you have to win it. Number 1, most important game of next year, bar none to me. And it's been the most important game now for me for 2 months. Looking ahead to the 2025 season, South Carolina. You lost a heartbreaker. You'd beaten South Carolina 4 years in a row, or 2019, 20, 21, 22, 25 years in a row, after they kind of owned you for a little while. They return a lot. There's a chance South Carolina's they're kind of this year's, like this offseason's Mizzou team, where Mizzou played some really good football in 2023. South Carolina played some really good football in 2024. Mizzou got a lot of hype going into 2024. South Carolina's going to get a lot of hype into 2025 as the surprise team in their respective years. How good will South Carolina be? I don't know. Is there a chance that they, unlike the Missouri team this year, they live up to the hype and are a real true blue playoff contender? We'll see. Like, that's up for Beamer and the boys to figure out as the season goes along. Yeah, no, it definitely is. It has that feel. It's a big one, man. Like, here's the stakes for Mizzou for South Carolina, the South Carolina game. You win that game, you're going to be 5-0 when Bama comes to town. Again, a Bama team coming off a game in the middle of their brutal stretch. Like I said, for Bama, they got Georgia on the road, revenge spot against Vanderbilt, and then they go to Mizzou. Oh, we got to go to Mizzou. Ugh. And then they got to play Tennessee and at South Carolina. I will never pick Mizzou to beat Bama. I'm not delusional. I'm not an idiot. I will never pick it. If you're 5-0 Missouri coming off a bye week and Bama's in the midst of this grueling 5-game stretch, that's as good of a chance as you're ever going to have. Again, not going to pick it, but if you beat, and then you got Auburn on the road. Like, even if you lose, can you split those games? And then you got Vanderbilt. Can you win that? And all of a sudden, if you beat South Carolina, you're staring at an opportunity to be 7-1 going into your bye week, your second bye week, before you play A&M, Mississippi State, OU, and Arkansas. 4 winnable games as we sit here on February 3rd, 2025. I don't know what these teams are going to look like. It's hard to predict. I think a lot of people, I was terrified of that South Carolina game all year. Even when I believed at this point last year, I was like, Mizzou's going to be really, really good next year. And they were just simply good, not really, really good, because I'm like, okay, Mizzou plays Oklahoma at home. That's going to be because I thought OU was going to be not awful. I was like, man, South Carolina, like they're coming off probably a big emotional home win over OU, and then you had to go to Columbia, South Carolina, in an atmosphere that's known to trip people up. Just talk to A&M, and you lost a heartbreaker. If you win this one, you're going to be ranked. You're going to play UMass. You're going to kick the crap out of UMass. And then you're going to get into the meat of SEC play with everything to play for, with 8 games left, or 7 games left. It's a big one, and it's a big one for South Carolina too. Like South Carolina, at that point, will we have any idea how good South Carolina is? Probably not. They got Virginia Tech, they got SC, they got South Carolina State and Vandy, but they get Vandy at home. So, and after that, they got Kentucky. And for South Carolina, it's a huge game too, because that's their toughest game to start the year. If they can go into Columbia, Missouri, and win, now they're 5-0 before they play LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss. And everything's on the front of the table for them too, because if they could just, not manage to get, South Carolina can get through the Ole Miss game at 7-2. Like, okay, now you got A&M and Coastal Carolina and Clemson. Like, can you win those? And now you're going to make the playoff. Like, it's a huge football game, and on both sides. For Missouri, it's reestablishing yourself. Like, we're not going anywhere. We're still a good college football team, and we're here to stay. This wasn't just a Luther Burden, Brady Cook thing. This was we're a football program you need to take seriously. And for South Carolina, it's, hey, man, this is a tough road game in the SEC. If we win this, there's a decent chance we're 6-0, 7-0, or whatever. It's a big game for both programs, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Lenora Sellers is must-watch TV regardless. So I'm really looking forward to that game, even February 3rd. Like I said, I'm a little college footballed out. I go into hybrid. I'll be doing these shows. Obviously, there's plenty to talk about, but I kind of go into hibernation. I'm not watching highlights or anything. I'm just kind of breathing. I'm enjoying basketball. I love hockey. But man, I'm kind of excited for that game. Like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. But that's how I would power rank these games. I did not include Central Arkansas. Okay, if you want the other 3, Central Arkansas would be 12, UMass would be 11, Louisiana 10. Like, that's because Louisiana is not a bad football team. Like, they're for a Sun Belt team, they're pretty good. But I just, man, I don't really care. Those three games, Mizzou, those are like the Mississippi State game. You cannot lose those games. You just can't lose those games. You lose those games, you'll never be taken seriously again. So please hit that like button, subscribe. I think we did a fun job having a little conversation tonight about the Mizzou 2025 schedule. My name is Zach Ramelius, of course. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to all our channels, guys. The Voice of College Football, we're only going up. And stay along. There's a lot of dorks and people that love football, including Jackson, who has been lovely chiming in tonight. And Jackson, I mean dork in an affectionate, loving way. You can catch us all on all your favorite audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, if there's any other ones. Or you can watch us here on YouTube. But thank you guys all for being here tonight. Enjoy the week. It's a big week for Mizzou college basketball. I'm super excited for it. Winter's better when Mizzou basketball is good. And they're very good. So thank you guys all for being here. I will see you next Monday. MIZ and ZOU.